For more on this, let's bring in South Carolina Republican Congressman Russell Fry. Congressman, thanks for joining us today. Let's start with that last point. Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine is not going to be at the table on Friday when the two presidents meet. Should they be?
Well, I think it's ultimately up to the parties. What has not happened up to this point is that Russia really hasn't been at the table ever. And so in order for diplomacy to take effect and take root, you're going to need to pull them to the table. I think President Trump's pressure, his economic pressure, the military pressure, is providing that room in which Russia can come to the table. So we'll see. I mean, certainly President Trump and all of America and really the world wants this to end. But you've got to have them at the table. And at least right now, they're coming to Alaska this upcoming week.
There are a lot of people who support the Ukrainian side who fear that President Trump is somehow going to give away the farm, or at least give away parts of Ukraine, in order to conclude some kind of a peace deal. Do you see that as a prospect?
Well, I think Ukraine has recognized this to some extent, too, is that, land swaps are going to be part of this, right? For a lasting peace, there's also probably going to be some security guarantees. But this is where President Trump is at his best, right? Within his second term, he's already had 5 peace deals. One of them, most recently, Azerbaijan and Armenia, they've been warring for decades. So it's if there's anyone who can do it, let's put our lead negotiator in the room and let's get the job done. People want peace. People in the region deserve that peace.
So what does he use? Does he use a carrot and stick strategy? If so, what are the carrots? What are the sticks with Vladimir Putin?
Well, I think the carrot is right, a ceasefire of proportions that allow things to kind of cool down for a little bit. The stick are the economic pressures. Obviously, President Trump recognizes that Russia has been fueling their war machine through oil and natural gas to places like India and China. And so he understands that. He understands the economic influence that America has on the world stage. And on top of that, Congress has before it legislation that would impose additional sanctions on Russia. And so knowing President Putin certainly sees that, and I expect that President Trump will be discussing that if there is not a lasting peace in the region.
The stakes are high. J.D. Vance, the vice president, told Maria Bartiromo today about some of the costs that could come to an end if President Trump is able to come up with some kind of a peace agreement. Listen.
Well, first of all, I've got to give the president a huge amount of credit here, Maria, because this is a major breakthrough for American diplomacy. If you go back, this war's been going on for over 3 years at this point, well over 1 million Russians and Ukrainian dead soldiers. And as the president says, the numbers are probably much higher than the official tally indicates. There has been no substantial breakthrough. And for 6 months,
no substantial breakthrough for 6 months. Obviously, Vladimir Putin, something is motivating him to come to the table. What do you think that is?
Well, obviously, they've been at war for 3 years. It's drained certainly the Russian military. It's put a strain on them financially with the existing sanctions and then the potential for new ones. At some point, things have to end. And I think there's a recognition of that by President Putin. That seems to be the indication. And they have lost people. They've lost a tremendous amount of Russian people. Ukrainians have also suffered losses. And so I do think at the end of the day, there is a healthy recognition by all parties that there should be a peace. Now it's about putting the terms on paper and getting the job done.
But if peace means Russia walks away with Crimea or part of the Donbass, I mean, that's rewarding them for launching an illegal invasion, isn't it?
Well, what I am hopeful for, as President Trump understands, he's obviously met with Zelensky and talked. Those lines of communication are certainly open. They have to be at the table, but the Russians also have to be at the table. And up to this point, they have not been. So I think this is a breakthrough in a good way for a peace within the region. We'll see what all parties put together, but hopefully it means that this war is resolved and there's a lasting peace in the region. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
The NATO allies have to be concerned about whatever comes out of this summit or this meeting on Friday.
Well, certainly they've weighed in, but there is some optimism. And again, up to this point, I think people have to recognize the fact that no one has been able to bring Russia to the table at all. So this is the first time. Allow that conversation to take place. People should be cautiously optimistic. But certainly, it takes two to tango. Russia and Ukraine are ultimately going to have to reach a peace agreement at some point. What that looks like, we will see. But I trust the president, who is great at negotiating. He's already had 5 peace deals in his second term, on top of an already great first administration with the Abraham Accords and things like that. If there's anyone who can get it done, it's President Trump. And that's why this is where he is at his best.
It's going to be a big week. We will certainly keep an eye on it here on Fox. Republican Congressman Russell Fry. Congressman, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.